They laughed first, not because they were winning, not because they were fearless, but because the thing climbing toward them looked wrong. Too big, too thick, too slow. A barrel with wings, dragging itself into the thin blue air like a truck trying to become a bird. Up there, where the sky turns dark and the horizon curves, veteran pilots watched the newcomers struggle for altitude and thought they were witnessing a mistake, an insult to the art of aerial combat, a flying joke built by people who didn't understand the European sky. But war doesn't care about style. War cares about what survives, and what they were really seeing, without realizing it, was the arrival of a machine built for a different kind of victory. Not a duel, not a dance, an eraser. Because the truth about the Thunderbolt is that it didn't need to be graceful. It only needed to come back. The early encounters were ugly. The big American fighter couldn't turn like the sleek interceptors that had been hunting for years. It didn't climb like the lightweight killers that lived for altitude and angles. In the first meetings, the verdict seemed obvious. This is meat. That's what pilots said, on the radio, in reports, in bitter jokes that spread quickly across airfields and mess halls. They called it a flying refrigerator, a steel bathtub, a fat target pretending to be a fighter. And sometimes they were right. The Thunderbolt bled speed in turns. It felt heavy in the controls. If you tried to fight their war, tight circles, sudden climbs, elegant reversals, you were already dead. The sky punished you for forgetting what you were sitting in, because this aircraft was not built to imitate the predators of Europe. It was built to be something else, something American, something industrial. It began with a question that sounds simple, but changes everything. What if we design a fighter like we design a factory machine? Not optimized for beauty, optimized for endurance, optimized for output. A fighter that treats the sky like an assembly line. You put in fuel, metal, and manpower, and you get survival and destruction. That is the logic that created the Thunderbolt. A radial engine like a hammer, thick, blunt, hard to kill. No delicate cooling system hanging under the skin like a vein waiting to be cut. A machine that could take damage that would turn a lighter aircraft into a fireball and still fly. Armor behind the pilot, bulletproof glass, systems built with the assumption that something would fail, so something else had to keep working. It was overbuilt on purpose. And at first, that overbuilding made it feel like a problem. Training with it was brutal. Pilots discovered torque on takeoff, violent, eager, ready to roll the aircraft into the ground if you treated it casually. They discovered landing accidents that happened not because the plane was cursed, but because it demanded respect. They discovered dives so fast that controls could stiffen, the air itself turning hostile as speed tried to outrun physics. The Thunderbolt didn't forgive sloppy hands. It killed the careless before the enemy ever could. But the ones who mastered it felt something they couldn't quite explain. Not nimbleness, power. The feeling was not like riding a horse. It was like aiming a locomotive. And then, quietly, almost invisibly, the story began to change. Not in victories first, in survivals. A Thunderbolt returned with holes that should have been fatal, entire panels shredded, oil streaked across the canopy like black rain, control surfaces torn and trembling, pilots stepping out of wrecked machines as if climbing out of a nightmare, alive, stunned, blinking in disbelief. Enemy pilots would claim a kill, confident, certain, and later discover the target had limped home. Something about that began to creep into conversations. A new kind of respect, a new kind of unease. Because it is one thing to fight an agile opponent, it is another thing to fight something that doesn't die when you hit it. Then came the second shift, the one that turned respect into fear. Because the Thunderbolt had a mouthful of teeth. 8 heavy machine guns. Not a cannon with a few precious shells. Not a weapon that demanded perfect aim in a fraction of a second. But a battery, an industrial weapon built for sustained destruction. When those guns fired, it wasn't a pop. It was a continuous tearing sound, like canvas ripping across the sky, like steel being shredded by an invisible saw. And when the Thunderbolt's guns found you, the difference was immediate. It wasn't damaged, it wasn't disabled, it was erased. An aircraft caught in that convergence of fire didn't simply fall, it disintegrated. Pieces separated mid-air, wings and tail and fuselage turning into spinning debris, trailing smoke like a signature. For pilots used to short bursts and limited ammunition, it felt impossible. The Thunderbolt could keep firing and firing and firing. The sky became a place where you could be shredded in seconds by a machine that didn't even need to get close. Still, the enemy tried to keep laughing. They said the big fighter could be bullied, forced into turns, dragged down to medium altitude, where its weight became a burden and its climb suffered. And for a while, that worked, until the Americans did something terrifying. They stopped trying to fight like Europeans. They started fighting like Thunderbolts. The secret wasn't turning. The secret was energy. Altitude as savings, speed as currency, gravity as a weapon. The Thunderbolt climbed high, higher than many opponents wanted to operate comfortably. And from that height, it didn't chase, it didn't swirl, it didn't beg for a dogfight. It hunted, it waited, and when it attacked like a falling building. Roll inverted, nose down, dive. The airframe could take it, the engine could take it, the pilot could feel the acceleration pushing the world backward. The aircraft gained speed so fast that defending pilots barely had time to process what was happening before the Thunderbolt was already passing them. Then the guns spoke. A short burst, 2 seconds, and the target turned into fragments. And the Thunderbolt didn't stay to admire its work. It climbed back up, back into the cold, thin air, back into safety, back into advantage, again and again and again. This wasn't a duel. It was a system, a repeatable method, a production line of kills. And that's when the sky truly began to change. Because once a tactic becomes repeatable, it becomes unstoppable. Enemy pilots could not rely on skill alone anymore. They needed position, they needed altitude, they needed warning. But the Thunderbolt lived above them, where the world was quiet and visibility was long, and it could choose the moment. Downward attacks are not fair, they are not romantic, they are efficient. And efficiency is the language of industrial war. Soon the Thunderbolt's reputation spread beyond the pilots. Ground troops began to recognize its sound. Not the high whine of a light engine, not the sharper crack of smaller propellers. A deep, threatening rumble, a heavy presence in the air, a thunder you felt in your chest before you saw anything in the sky. And when it came lower, when it started to treat roads and rail lines as targets, the fear became physical. Columns of trucks vanished in seconds, locomotives erupted in fire, vehicles were chewed open as if they were paper, because those 8 guns weren't just for aircraft, they were for anything that moved. A burst could sweep a road like a scythe, and when rockets and bombs joined the equation,
the Thunderbolt became something else entirely. Not just a fighter, a flying artillery piece with wings. A machine that could fight, strike, survive, and return again and again. This is the part of the story that hurts the most for anyone on the receiving end, because it wasn't only the aircraft, it was what the aircraft represented. Replacement. Endless replacement. You could shoot one down, and another would appear. You could destroy 10, and 20 would arrive. But every pilot lost was irreplaceable time, irreplaceable experience, irreplaceable training. In a long war, time is more valuable than metal, and the Thunderbolt was made of time. American time, factory time, fuel time, training time, the ability